Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of Mr. Einstein's Secretary by Matthew Reilly. This is one of the books that I read for the Dimmix 2024 Reading Challenge for the Australian Author Prompt, and I was pretty excited to read this. It came out last year and I held off reading it because I gave it to somebody for Christmas and I didn't want to spoil them, so I had to wait till after Christmas to read my own copy. So yeah, was pretty excited to read this. And as you can see from the sticker on the front, I managed to get a signed edition, so that's pretty neat. So, does this 40-year historical epic live up to that title? Stay tuned to find out. So first, what is Mr. Einstein's Secretary about? Well, our protagonist, Hannah Fisher, is born in Berlin, Germany, in the early years of the 20th century, and she happens to be the next door neighbour of Albert Einstein, as in, yes, the scientist. He's a close family friend of hers, and he is a major influence in her young life and inspires her to pursue physics and want to become a physicist when she grows up. Unfortunately, life gets in the way. She has to leave Germany, go to America, and she studies at a secretarial school and becomes a secretary, and then through various events she lives through historical events like Prohibition and the Great Depression, and then eventually through again various circumstances. Don't want to spoil things too much, however it is related to the title of the book. She ends up back in Germany just in time to get caught up in the rise of Hitler and Nazism, and to end up getting caught up in all of that and witnessing World War II and the absolute worst of it firsthand. It's an epic that spans 40 years of her life, from, as I said, childhood to all of that, all of the things that she goes through, all of the people that she works with, her relationships with Albert Einstein and various other figures that play a role in her life. And in true Matthew Reilly fashion, it's a very fast-paced historical story with a lot of research put into it. According to the interview in the back of the book, it took him 5 years to write this due to all of the research that he did and him having to sort of take a break from it, right around all his other books that he was writing in that period. So, what do I think of it? What came out of all of that 5 years of work? Well, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed reading about Hannah. I certainly enjoyed the premise a lot as a fellow femme in STEM, and I enjoyed Hannah Fisher as a character and also her growth throughout the book. However, I do have two problems with this book that hold it back from being a 5-star for me. The first is that, as I said, Matthew Reilly's books are very fast-paced, but I think that hurt this one a bit. This book spans 40 years in less than 500 pages, and that's a lot of ground to cover for a average length book, an average length novel, I'd say, not a long novel. A lot of the problems and obstacles that came up, I feel like were resolved too quickly. There were a couple of things that were sort of set up early in the book and then paid off later, but they weren't like deep plot lines, plot threads that were going on throughout the book, like side plots or anything that were truly deep or blew your mind, really. So I think this book needed another 100, even just another 100 pages wouldn't have hurt it. It would have given Matthew Reilly a bit more time to make some of these problems last a bit longer, like they probably really would have done. The second problem I have is with something that I didn't even know about while I was reading the book and only found out in the interview in the back. And that is, certain sections of it were not told by Hannah, and though you can identify those in the book, you can't do so on a first reading. I'd have to reread the book to appreciate those parts of the book, because I certainly didn't catch on that there was anything suspicious going on with those parts reading the book. And now that I finished it, I can't remember what those parts were that he was referring to in that interview. He used a different font style to denote that, but because you don't know that going in, you don't take special note of those particular passages. And so the mind-blowing effect that he was going for with that, when you kind of were supposed to understand what's going on, just didn't land. And there's a part where near the end it's actually obvious. It's spelled out that that part is told from another perspective. That makes sense. You know that part. But the narrative voice during that portion doesn't carry over to those earlier portions, because I'm pretty sure I would have noticed that. So I think I need a reread, or would need to go back and find those passages just to be able to appreciate that. So I think that separate perspective needed a bit more fleshing out to make it separate from Hannah, or you shouldn't need to reread a book just to understand something that you're really supposed to be able to catch on to at first. Other than that, though, I quite liked. I liked the plot. I liked the premise. I liked all the scientific exploration. And I liked the use of flashbacks and flash forwards. Throughout the book, we go forward and backward to these 3 interrogations that Hannah experiences during her time. And so you want to know how she got to that point. And so it's interesting as you reach those points in this overall story and you see how she got there, how she ended up in that situation. So in summary, overall, it's a good book. It is pretty epic. There is definitely action in it, a lot of action. Of course, it's World War II and right in the heart of it. And there's even stuff like gangsters in the Prohibition era section. So yeah, it definitely fits Matthew Reilly's usual modus operandi when it comes to his writing. As I said, I think that did also sort of hurt the book a bit. It could have been a bit longer just to make some of the problems feel a bit more permanent and a bit more realistically problematic and consequential. So in summary, it was great, it was fun, it just didn't quite stick the landing in the way that I was hoping for. Thank you for watching, and as always, do lots of maths, read lots of books, and I'm sure you'll have an epic day.